Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So, the 3D printing went relatively well. I had a few solid, very good results, and then I had a few mixed results. So, I ran a test, or I'm running a test with gluestick, and from what I read, gluestick is supposed to be very helpful. Gluestick or hairspray or whatever. Everything prints just fine, and even the first few layers look fine. It's just near like halfway up or something. Once it reaches a certain critical mass of layers, they start to curl up on some of the corners, which seems odd because I would have expected things to be melted by then. Actually, maybe, now that I think about it, maybe my bed temperature is too high for that. Interesting. I'm using the same materials and the same temperatures otherwise, so maybe it is just how the bed interacts with the material. That would make sense, actually. Interesting. I would rather not use gluestick, but it seems to be a pretty standard consumable, so I don't know. I would rather not, but if it gets solid prints that are easy to remove and very, very flat, then yes, that's pretty cool. I do have some builds that wind up needing to be very flat. What else? The trees are in bloom, which is just fantastic. Just amazing. I don't know. Growing up in Southern California, you're just like, ugh. The trees are just there. I like to say they cut down all the trees, paved over them, cut a hole in the pavement, and put a tree. But trees don't just grow, and part of that is just because it's a desert. Even in the BLM areas, or the forested areas, wooded areas, it's mostly just like 8-foot tall scrub. So it's still not a lot of trees, but just a variety of nature, I guess. Moving to Kentucky, it's just it still boggles my mind, and we've been here I guess almost 9 years or something. Yeah, it's still really, really amazing and really, really pretty. And fall, the bright orange leaves, it's crazy. And the wildlife and stuff. And since I've been hunting, I've been noticing animals more, paying more attention to them, and I've been able to see the birds coming to our feeder in the backyard. And it's like, oh, well, now I can see them. Now I see the detail. Now that I'm paying attention, I can tell, which bird is which, and when I haven't seen a bird before. So noticing new birds. And my son, who's 5, is kind of getting more interested in it too. It's like, oh, look at that bird. I haven't seen that bird before. Paying attention to wildlife. Or just being more detail-oriented. I thought about that. There's a coding platform. I guess it's more of a gaming platform. Gaming engine, I guess. It was strange to say, but it's a gaming engine for the Nintendo Switch. It's called Fuze 4. F-U-Z-E, and then the number 4. And I got a copy of it recently, and we were kind of messing around with the examples and just kind of going over the whole, like, here's what the code looks like, here's what the numbers and the letters mean, here's what the words mean. Got kind of stalled up at explaining what a function was, but that'll come along later. With like algebra and stuff. It makes all those concepts a little bit easier. But it is not a, it is for programmers or people who want to learn actual programming. It's not, drag and drop stuff. I don't want to say anything bad about. Yeah, maybe I do. Maybe I do want to say something bad about drag and drop programming. First of all, my medium is text, not gooey puzzle pieces that stick together that you could build into chains. I don't know. It's possible that you could get the amount of complexity in standard writing text source code language as you can in the GUI. It's possible, but it's just very unlikely. It's like the open SCAD thing. It's like, oh, you can script with our CAD software? Really? I can? Yeah, I mean, kind of. What do you mean? Well, it works, probably. I mean, no one's ever used it, but... And it's full of bugs, and we won't fix them, but, it's probably fine. There's still something to be said for... still something to be said for something to be an introduction to others, to people who wouldn't normally step into something, to kind of whet their appetite and understand, well, this is kind of how programming works. This is the idea. I think I understand it, but, it's meant to be a stepping stone. Worked on a few projects that had other people who built their, they called themselves developers, but they were using GUI programs, and they just had zero understanding of logic, and it was like computer logic, and it was just like, why am I talking to you about this? Why am I not working on the solution for this? And they're like, here's a picture of the code, and it's just like, it's like scratch puzzle pieces stuck together, and you're just like, what kind of Mickey Mouse operation is this? I don't know. I might be on text I can certainly be a purist of some kind. The point is, the people who developed it in a certain way to be used a certain way. Building a front end or a layer of abstraction on top of that is almost necessarily going to reduce the complexity and limit what options are available to you, or at least limit your imagination as to the possibilities. I got my learning Lisp one game at a time paper copy, hard copy of the book. I had an electronic copy, and then electronic copy, and then I wanted to get. I just couldn't. It was weird. Like, it just kind of. I wanted it to be paper, and apparently the dude that wrote it is like kind of a labor of love on his part. I want to support that, and it was no starch press, which I like anyways. Yeah, I like them well enough. So I was like, all right, this is worth buying. Plus, it does actually help, because now I can flip through the book physically and be like, oh, this looks interesting, and read a few sentences and be like, okay, this kind of gets me excited for what's coming up, so that I can push through some of these other parts. Because it is in Common Lisp, which is probably what I should learn. I don't know, it's just one of those books I need to sit down and go step by step in. It is still rather interesting. I still used it for building the Emacs OpenSCAD shorthand. For building the macros for that. Which is, I mean, it's a good book. And it's worth getting. And, yeah, I was flipping through that, and it just cements the idea that all of this stuff, it's a Common Lisp. You want to make a game. You're like, all right, here's a skeleton of a game. It's basically just a bunch of numbers. It's a text adventure that you type in, and then it just steps up from there. Like, okay, well, this is cool, but let's take out some of the parentheses. How do we do that? All right, well, this is cool too, but how do we make it so that it has graphics? It's like, all right, let's do this. this will output a file that will use that will run a generator that uses that output as a source file, and then generates graphics for you. So now we've got visualizations. It's like, okay, that's cool. And then you just step up from there. Like, well, what if you want other people to be able to play it? We'll make a web server, and now we'll make the game available on the web server. And now it's you know, suddenly a web accessible interactive game built off Common Lisp. And I mean, why not? We've got the horsepower for it. That is a valid use of the horsepower, is building abstractions that allow us to change the coding paradigms that we're using, so that code is a little bit more human-centric than machine-centric. That is another, you know, there's my spectrum of straight-up assembly language all the way to, you know, GUI-based Scratch, drag-and-drop language implementations. You know, more machine speak and more human speak, and the the understandability is, I guess, the paradigm style, the imperative versus a functional paradigms are. This is it's orthogonal to that spectrum. So it goes like this. It's really more of a grid. I don't know. This is a popular street. I'd hate to have my driveway on it, and if I did, I would back into my driveway so that when I left, I could very easily see what was ahead of me. Am I going here? Yeah, I am. Cool. I'm not even sure what I talked about. I'm sure it was lots of fun and very interesting. That's why I can't remember it at all. It's a good book. You should get it. Learn you a Lisp.